it's actually a sequential dependency where cars rely on energy sources. AI is not going to get anywhere without data. So it's about the quality of that data and the integrity of the ledgers and infrastructure that support it. So when I hear somebody that's excited about AI but not excited about blockchain, it's like, then you're not actually excited about AI because you don't get what it needs. So the conversation is often super, like what he was saying, people are crazy, they think it's the future of everything, or they don't believe in the AI that we use now and are looking towards a general AI.
I kind of wish AI was involved a moment ago because I forgot to start the live stream. So maybe the AI would have helped me with that portion because it didn't. But for those that are live or listening or watching on the stream, we are here at the TF Labs offices for Seattle Tech Week. We have a room full of people who are interested at the intersection of AI and blockchain. And we are here with the fabulous Sarah McCarter, who is going to be moderating the panel. I'm Jonathan from NIFMint, NFT Infrastructure. Introduce yourself really fast.
Devin, Fresh Credit.
Jesse Adams, Uprock.
Okay, and then going back to the question, what was the question again? Is what is the intersection of AI and blockchain? Yeah, so I think what we've learned with AI is how much AI needs blockchain. And we've also learned how much of Web3 AI is going to eat. What's really interesting to me, and we'll get more into this, I'm sure, as the conversation goes along. What's really interesting to me is just the fact that AI has just strictly from a content perspective, we can create amazing content now with AI. Sometimes you don't even know if it's human, or if it's a robot, a machine, etc. And you start thinking about things like deep fakes, or you see like these, the songs that come out that's Drake on AI, and it's just amazing. It's like you actually like want to listen to it at the gym. So what do you do for that? And so for me, I think the answer is frankly tokenization. And so AI has completely proven the case for the need for tokenization of content, for the tokenization of digital products. And so when you think about that, it's not that you're going to create an NFT of something because you're going to put it on OpenSea and try to sell it for a bunch of money. No, you're just really trying to prove provenance, authenticity, the immutability of that product. You want to show the ownership. If you're a brand, a company, organization, you want to be able to say like, yeah, this is something that we created and we can prove it. And there is trust behind it because you trust us as the organization. It doesn't solve everything, of course, when it comes to AI, but I think it's a really big part of it. And I think we're going to start to see more tokenization of assets. And when I say assets, I'm talking more digital content, not money necessarily.
It's actually interesting that you went that way in your discussion, because before we started, I was talking with a lot of the folks here, asking what their opinion was and what their take is on AI and blockchain. And a lot of what I'm hearing about blockchain is that NFTs and blockchain go hand in hand. So it kind of has, it's kind of a bad word, kind of has a lot of judgment on it. A lot of people worrying about security. Jesse, you mentioned that a little bit too. So I guess step one with this question with AI is, how does AI enhance the security and privacy of blockchain networks? Because a lot of people, at least the folks that I talk to in this room, aren't completely trusting of blockchain network.
Well, one, I think what's amazing about AI is being able to take so much data and synthesizing it and doing analysis. And so all that data is on chain that you can just feed to the AI. You can detect fraud. I think that's going to be one of the biggest ones, just detect fraud, see things are going wrong. Smart contract has logic. I've seen some Web3 startups that are actually trying to put some of the AI models on chain. They don't have to actually be huge. There are actually some really smaller models that can do some cool inference stuff even on a cheap Android device. So that might happen coming soon. I think for the security side, I was at the Google AI conference yesterday, or the AI panel yesterday, and a lot of the enterprise folks are all going to ask, like, I don't want to feed my data into a model that's leaky. Like, I don't want to feed it to a competitor that's training from my data. And so that's going to be a tough nut to crack. But AI today is kind of sandbox, and also a lot of blockchains are its own little isolated thing too. So I think if you want to go after enterprise, you're going to have to solve that problem. Hey, don't worry. there's transparent. It's it's compliant. It's not leaky. It's your data. It's your model, and we're storing it in a secure place and it's encrypted. So.
Yeah, I would be more afraid of AI personally than blockchain from a security standpoint. I'm not saying long term per se, but at this exact moment in time, I would be more concerned about AI. I mean, AI can do a lot of things like have hallucinations, right? Where it basically like creates fake information based off of how it read the information. So that's not fun. And you posted that article recently about how the quality of the content that ChatGPT has been producing has degraded substantially. Again, these are things that are going to get solved. That's not going to be a long-term issue, but that is an issue right now. It's funny on the blockchain front because we're talking data and we're talking more from that, but like I think about just the record management that blockchain provides, right? Like the auditability that blockchains provide, and the fact that pretty much anybody can read what's on a blockchain. So to me, like that's just like a really high level of trust in the blockchain, but it's also essentially a trustless environment. Like there's no need for trust because of the situation there. It was funny when people were talking, senators and Congress people were talking about like Bitcoin and crypto transactions, et cetera, and like how it's for all this drug and nefarious activity, and it's like the feds actually love when people do nefarious things with crypto because you can see it, you can track it, you can find it. It's much easier to track that than a duffel bag full of cash.
Well, along both of these comments, I don't believe that there is a fear if we use them together because they actually hold each other accountable. Blockchain will keep the data infrastructure in place that is immutable, while AI pushes the edge, right? We want to be on the bleeding edge, not falling off the edge. So the reality is we do need these guardrails. Blockchain is a guardrail for AI to be held accountable because as we use infrastructures that have the ability to be mutable, there is chances that AI would outsmart a person very, very easily and find reasons or ways to navigate infrastructure. So having a blockchain is actually how we reduce the fear, and then having an AI is how we increase the innovation.
So how do we strike a balance then between human intuition and AI generated insights?
That's my thing, credibility. So
Here
trust.
comes the plug.
No, just go. I want to hear.
Okay.
I want to hear this point of view.
So when you talk about increasing the confidence rate or trust is not black or white. It is a range of feelings and risk. So being able to apply a metric rather than yes or no will allow things like AI to make better decisions. And over time, data saturation leads to hallucinations. It leads to complete irresponsible pattern recognition. Now, when you say content, that seems like, okay, we can fix that. But what happens when you start having hallucinations in pharmaceuticals and in the law? And like, those are where we don't want any.
Well, it's funny that you say in the law because there's been lawyers that have been using ChatGPT for information, got fired, got in trouble, basically produced bad data. There actually are, though, AI companies in the legal field that are creating their own LLMs around that have, done a good job, of course.
And holding those guys accountable with the blockchain would actually help.
Yeah, we actually have somebody in the audience that is building an AI law app. And so in that instance, I would think black and white is what you would want with your honesty. Do you want to say something, Jesse?
Well, I think the main problem with anybody who's used ChatGPT or Bard, when you know it's lying to you or it's like has some bias and it feels like it's gaslighting you, that's what's annoying. So it's okay if you want to do that, but just tell me why you're doing it. Like, let me know the weights or give me any citations. And as long as you do that, you make a mistake, at least I know why you did it and I can go deeper into the problem. But right now, I think where we're frustrated is usually the data is old, it's rate limited, and there's some kind of clumsy content moderation policy in place where humans are just blocking words, And so that's what gets frustrating using some of the models today. As long as you're upfront about how you're doing it, I think we just, a few good men, we can handle the truth,
Or women.
Women. That's
Goodness.
the title of the movie.
I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing.
it kind of makes me go off script a little bit with the questions. I give them a lot of
Yeah.
hassle about women in Web3, so that's
Yeah, no, I get
inside jokes on the panel.
Jonathan, what do you invest in?
I mean, I think I could go to a doctor today and I'm going to roll the dice whether or not that doctor's going to help me. Same thing with the lawyer, same thing with the financial advisor. Maybe they're just a big a-hole, So, and we just suck it up, complain, write a Yelp review, but we expect a lot more from our technology, right? From AI. So is there a little bit of grace that we give our tech, or is it all or nothing?
I think that where we're at in AI right now, it's like this borderline cult-like phenomenon for those who are in the AI. It's not ready yet. I mean, I had a friend of mine who his wife works for a top 4 consulting firm. And at the beginning of the year, or call it like February, when things started to get really hot with AI, they literally told their whole company, hey, a lot of you are going to get let go, and we're essentially going to replace you with AI and offshore. And then like a couple weeks ago, they're like, oh yeah, we're actually really not going to do that because that's going to be crazy, right? So I think a lot of people thought AI was a little bit farther along than it is today. To the point of like where you see, we went to a panel earlier this week at Tech Week, and there was these VCs talking about it. And I asked them, I was like, how much do you care about someone building their own proprietary AI technology versus using OpenAI APIs? And, he's like, yeah, of course, we would rather have someone create their own technology. But at the same time, if you're creating your own tech, you better have some PhD of machine learning or someone who's actually been building this stuff before. And because if you're just doing API, there's nothing wrong with building APIs or building like an application layer on top of it. It's just that it's not as, call it, the moat is smaller, overall.
Proprietary.
And like, there's like some guy that created a company 6 months ago and got funding. And I don't think that happens right now. There's a couple investors here in the room, so I'd love to hear what they have to say later. But I don't think that, hey, I started an AI company 6 months ago, I get funded now. I don't think that works at this exact moment in time. Might have worked, a few months ago, but I think we're past that already.
I do think like since AI, so it's like, wow, it's actually here. It's mind blowing. I think the Web3 world, I don't think people realize how much AI has just negated a lot of the work of Web3. Because the whole idea, like if you guys like blockchain, it came down to we were all sharing our cat photos online. All of a sudden, we realized our data is worth something, and we should get our fair share. And that's the whole kind of ethos of Web3. And all of a sudden, AI comes through, swoops up all the data, doesn't give rewards back, and that's it. And the consumer is going to prefer the AI apps over the Web3 apps because the Web3 apps are not as good. Wise, they're just not as good. And so I think it's moving so fast. I haven't heard a good answer to it, but I think the Web3 world needs to embrace AI or it's going to eat our lunch pretty quick. Like on that specific issue, the data part, because it's going to be all data silos because that's the lifeblood of AI. And it's kind of antithetical to the Web3 model. So I don't have an answer to that little doomsday scenario there, but that comes too because it's moving so fast and it's so cool. But I just don't think people realize how much it's negating it. Yeah.
So you're already kind of future tripping a little bit. And we do that sometimes at some of these TF Lab events, and I love it. Some of us here were at the beginning of the .com, and remember, you can even go back and Google an old interview on like, what was it, like King 5, where they were talking about email. What is email? Why would I do that? Why wouldn't I just stick a letter in the email? And now it would be so weird to do that. It's more novelty. And so the question, and that was in many people's lifetimes, like less than a decade, a little over a decade. So I guess the question is, where do we see AI evolving? Where do you, if we want to do some future tripping, what opportunities, challenges do you anticipate?
This morning, I was at a biotech breakfast and listening to the question I thought was best was, what do you think is not going to be happening in 15 years? And I can easily say mostly probably related to politics, but what will be happening is real use cases for AI, like onboarding human experience where there is room for error, no matter what. Like, where do I press? How do I click this? Those types of things are going to get so fast that being part of a company or consumed into companies and then receiving value from that company won't be weeks or months. It'll be like tomorrow I'm set up, I'm onboarded, I'm good, and my company is already making revenue.
That would be exciting.
I think what's a cool engineering problem to solve would be like off-chain and on-chain data. So you have real-time insights. So you have your on-chain data. Um, let's say you want to have an AI model to different prices and transactions and maybe for an NFT marketplace, right? And so it's just basing on volume and what people are doing on in your marketplace. You might want to actually have real insights on off-chain data, which is like what's trending on Twitter, and have the AI model also figure out trends on Twitter before it affects the marketplace, and you can react really fast. So having those two combined, off-chain and on-chain, with AI analysis and doing that in real time would be pretty cool.
What does the future look like? I think we'll all have our own personal robots. But I mean, I really do think that. Like, I mean, I think we'll all have like digital assistants, and they will be, better than Siri. I'm not a fan of Siri because every time I say, "Hey Siri," she's like, "Uh huh." Mm-hmm. Does she do that for anybody else? Because she does that to me and drives me crazy. She does that to you?
Yeah, and I'm
Oh my god, I
surprised
hate it. It's like
nobody's
hey,
Siri
I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm like, hey Siri. Uh huh. Like, what? Can you say like yes or hello? How are you?
But when
Okay.
you actually mean to, she's just nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
So anyway, that's that. But no, I think digital assistants become just next level, like very human like overall, or even like digital twinning yourself becomes a thing where you have like essentially like almost call it a second brain. That you're basically creating your own model off of your own self. So like being able to essentially like rank and file like your own information or your own memories and things like that. I think will become really interesting. And but like I think like the low hanging fruit is like no one's driving. That's just not happening. You're going to just be in autopilot. I think for everything. Um, and
they're gonna do that autopilot stuff just to start managing resources more efficiently, not to catch people for tickets, not to like it will literally be like getting around the city at like 300 miles an hour, but because there's
like
automation.
like a ant colony or
Yes,
something.
exactly. Efficiency.
Or we should just start a bar and a therapy center.
Yeah.
And call it a good.
But if you think about it, like when you go somewhere, how many people are old enough that they use a map to like drive? Right? Okay. How many people are old enough, that you went to a website called MapQuest and you would put in an address and you'd print it out and then you would drive with that, right? That seems freaking insane right now. Like you would never do that in a million years. But let's say you're like driving to a place with a friend and your friend's telling you where to go and Google Maps is telling you where to go. Who are you going to listen to? Are you going to listen to your friend or are you going to listen to Google Maps? I think you're most likely going to listen to Google Maps. And so I just think, that's happen across AI.
When you talk about that company that said, "Hey, FYI, we're going to replace you with," oh, just kidding. It does spark some fear. It makes us wonder what the future holds. We can only guess so far. All of you are involved in startups, small business at different levels. So the question is, what challenges do you face as you're looking to integrate AI, or how are you already integrating AI?
I think of this more like feast versus famine. I hear that all the time too. Like it's going to destroy jobs. So I highly encourage our entire team of 9 to like just embrace the AI tools so we all superhuman. So we're all 10x people. Like why not? So like we use it for everything. Even like we do some Google ads. I produce literally 200 ads in an hour. Then I upload them to Google Ads. We optimize them. Like before, we'd have a whole agency do stuff like that. The words, the pictures, everything. I just do that in an hour, and then I can see which ones work, change them out. Another 200. Like it's so efficient. That's one example. On the code side, like Copilot's great. It's like you have to kind of know. Sometimes it feeds you weird stuff, but it saves some time because it'll actually give you an idea of what a function could look like, or it can summarize a documentation for you real quickly instead of having to spend like 10 minutes googling it. It just tell you, oh yeah, that exists in this documentation. So we use it pretty much for everything. So I would say, like, if you're a big company, instead of saying, hey, we can save money, I would say, why don't you just train all your company to use AI tools, and whoever doesn't want to, then fire them. But at least let them try to catch up and become superhuman too. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting take. So a lot of people who are in the creative or content space have more free roam to work with AI, but working in fintech, we have to use AI in ways that help us understand more efficient processes, but we can't actually apply it in the back end systems because the bias and hallucinations that could come from that could devastatingly affect people. It's not like coming out with the wrong picture on Dolly. This is like somebody won't get a loan for a home. So we have to make sure that we separate our actual use of AI and in the system versus how we use it to make our process more efficient.
I think I agree. Like, I don't think that people should be afraid of losing jobs to AI. There will be people, of course, that will lose their job to AI, though. So I guess you just like anything, though, you have to evolve and as times evolve, right? Like one of the like the oldest tales in business. If your business doesn't evolve, like you're basically going to go under. And so uh, before the tractor was invented, I think it was something like 80% of people worked on farms. And so I don't think 80% of people work on farms or in agriculture now. And so things shift and things evolve. If from a company standpoint, as a corporation, think about the internet. When the internet came out, there were plenty of people who were like, "Oh, this internet thing's stupid. I'm gonna keep doing my brick and mortar or whatever. I'm not gonna have a website." Oh, e-commerce becomes pretty big. Oh, I'm not gonna do e-commerce. I'm gonna stick on this, right? Um, a lot of people think that Amazon's amazing. Do you know who was Amazon before Amazon? Sears. Sears, who no one has everybody has forgot about. Did you know that you could buy a house from the Sears catalog? Literally, there are houses in Seattle that are Sears houses. You would go in the Sears catalog, you'd pick the house, and they'd ship this whole house to you, and you put it together in pieces. So, companies can get disrupted, and basically Sears decided to say like, oh, we don't really care about e-commerce right now. We're going to stick to brick and mortar. And they also didn't do that very well, unfortunately, when that happened. So, the companies that avoided e-commerce, they failed. The companies that avoided social, they are not as important as they were. The companies currently today that are avoiding content creation, they're going to get wiped out. And I believe that the companies that avoid AI and Web3 are going to have some issues in the future.
Do you feel like AI has optimized or helped you with decision making in your startup?
It definitely has. So I'm not a fan of using AI to create original content, but I am a fan of using AI to improve your content creation. So when I first started using AI, I was like, write me a blog about XYZ. And it's good, don't get me wrong, but it's not necessarily my voice. It's not necessarily like the voice that I'm looking for. But you can use it as kind of a first draft for a way to then improve your content. What I'm a big fan of is creating the content myself and then plug it into AI and say, like, hey, reduce 25%, or like take out filler words, or do things like this. And so it's been amazing for website copy that I've done. Basically, you're designing a site and you're like, man, I have way too many lines for this thing, and doing little things like that to create the content overall has been really good.
Just really quick, by show of hands, let's see if anyone in the room, if you have used an AI tool like ChatGPT or Midjourney or anything like that. Raise your hand. Okay, basically everyone in the room. Okay. So I was going to ask the next question is, what is your favorite AI tool? And is there an AI tool yet?
I think that is my favorite AI tool. Just kidding.
It's the real human experience.
Devin is AI was built off of Devin. Half human, half AI.
As someone who gets the benefit on being told I have to sit in the corner with AI, essentially not use it for my industry and only use it as a thought process, I get to really enjoy the tools. So I get to have a lot of fun. When ChatGPT first came out, I was glued to that thing. I'm sure everybody was, but over time it lost its shine. But man, oh man, they keep making tools that blow my mind. Midjourney is one of those ones that I can continue to go back to and just yeah. Typeface is also an amazing company. Anything you can think of, they essentially can make content, and it's important because we talk about data ownership. Well, what if there's data that's created that nobody owns? Well, then that is also something that becomes a benefit to society because we can use that for things like AI. So I would say my favorite tool that's probably not getting a lot of attention would be Typeface. It's a data creation AI tool that allows people to make data sets from small amounts of data. That way you're not violating PII and things that, but you still get the important information you need. They use tools like vectorizing so that you can actually create similar outcomes. Yeah, sorry, I said it like 3 times and I forgot. Typeface. I brain farted there.
Typeface.
Hallucination.
Yeah,
Jesse.
hallucination.
The company does not exist.
It does not exist.
Jesse, you said something like 200 ads done at once. What?
Yeah, I use
I'm curious what tool you're using.
Hugging Face, Stable Diffusion, Unstable Diffusion, Midjourney, ChatGPT. I try to use all of them. We're playing around with Falcon, which is open source for our own project, just because it's free. It's open source, so it's free. We don't have to pay token prices. But there's no API, so it's a lot more work. But so yeah, I explore with all of it. It's embedded in almost every app I use now.
OpenAI.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
That's one there. If anybody's
Yeah.
developing, just plug right into OpenAI.
Yeah, it's in my Visual Studio, like the complete. Sometimes it's probably good, but I mean, pretty. Yeah, I mean, for marketing side, also we're playing around with AutoGPT. Have you seen AutoGPT? That's why you can say I want 100,000 followers on Twitter, and then here's my category. It'll go. Here's what you see. Here's your influencer. You talk to. Here's the tweets. Executing. Here's what happened. Executing. It just keeps going. You can see the whole roadmap of your plan. So that's pretty gnarly, but we're just playing around with that because I don't think I'm not quite confident yet to just let it run loose and talk on your behalf yet. Like I don't think people would like an AI to read your email, auto respond, and hit send for you without you looking at it first yet. Right? Probably not.
So initially,
it's usually just no.
Initially, when people talk about blockchain, before AI was so sassy and the buzzword, blockchain and NFTs kind of went hand in hand. Is there a place for NFTs and AI? Their use? Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally NFTs is the most needed use case for AI across blockchain. So when I say tokenized content, I'm saying NFT it. And so we have to separate the thought of an NFT with a monkey picture. Okay? That is not the only thing that NFTs are. NFTs aren't monkey pictures or punk pictures or, basketball card things. That's literally 1% of the entire, or probably less than 1% of the entire NFT opportunity comes from NFT trading and PFP avatar. That is just a use case, and it's a really great use case, by the way. I'm not trying to dump on that use case because I think it's really interesting. But every single thing that's a piece of paper, that's a record that you want to maintain, that you want to have understanding of, that you want to prove, that you want to have auditability over, from now until the end of time, is a use case for an NFT. I'll go a step further and I'll say, I think the way that we all consume content is much different than it was in the past. And brands are offering digital content and digital products more than ever, and they'll continue to do so at a rapid rate. That rate will increase. And the reason why they're doing it is because consumers are demanding digital products. So if I ask everybody in this room, hey, I'm Nike, and I'm going to give you a JPEG with these shoes. Do you want it? You're like, maybe. Hey, I'm going to give you this JPEG that's actually auditable and it's programmable and it's unique. There's one of, you can prove that it belongs to you. It allows access to other things, but it's just a JPEG that does all these other things. Like, which one do you want? You want just like the regular JPEG, or do you want the other, like the enhanced JPEG? You want that enhanced JPEG. Guess what that is? That's an NFT. So, everything that's content created, I think from an AI perspective, or not for that matter, should be tokenized because we want to be able to prove the provenance of where it originated from.
Well, I think exactly on what you were saying is that the dependency of AI on NFTs is the dependency of recognizing AI needs data. And the more high quality data you can provide, the better outcomes. So when you think of like how paper has been replaced by everything, paper was what all currency was made from. So it wasn't just like these digital mediums don't only serve as pictures, they serve as data, and that data represents everything else in the world. So AI is only going to go as far as NFT. That really will be it. Because when we no longer have data that we can record, like say the whole world gets nuked, power goes out, you don't have any reason to have AI because there's no data. So NFTs are the best solution we have to source data and verify that it is supposed to be accessed as well.
I think mentioned it earlier, but one of the cool things with AI is the natural language part. So if when you're trading NFTs, whether it's a PFP or some represents some digital asset that has value, today if you want to like do a block explorer, just see all the transactions, you have to be pretty nerdy to actually understand it. Maybe learn some code to do some queries. If someone made a really cool tool, we just talk to it and say, hey, what was popular today, or which asset should I look into, and just talk to it like a regular person. That's pretty cool. Then you democratize blockchain data.
Yeah.
You know, actually make it accessible for the average person to make really data-driven decisions pretty fast without having to learn how to code. So I think that would be awesome.
I think back in the beginning of 2022, we thought NFTs would be popular. If somebody had an NFT, everybody wanted it, right? Everybody was listing to get it. It was a bull run, right? And then we had a big crash. A lot of folks that were onboarded during that time kind of bought into the idea of NFTs and owning your data decentralized, right? Like government can't get into it. This is the wild, wild west. If we are using NFTs and AI, where AI is built on data, is it still going to be decentralized? Is it still going to have some disruption in privacy?
So I would say that it is decentralized because it's actually the most decentralized because individuals are holding that data themselves and allowing access to it. So you can look at it this way. It's the most centralized for me, but it is the most decentralized as a network. I'm holding and responsible for my data on my NFTs, but and nobody else is. So I'm centralizing this, but it is you couldn't be any more decentralized. It is definitely intentional in the network.
Yeah, I guess being that I still think AI is going to like so fast and scooping up all data. I think it might make the internet more closed. Every company that has a lot of proprietary data now all websites like Twitter, it's closed down, Facebook might do something like that, or it might do that login because no one wants to fix stuff. It might actually make the internet more closed. And again, I think it does go against the data, centralize the data. We should share the network. Whoever helps provide the compute power, whoever helps data curate should be rewarded for that. That's like literally the mission statement of so many crypto projects and AI, big AI apps that are. Well, here's an interesting fact from Google. They said, you guys go to google.com on the bottom, it says there's a little switch that says, would you like to try our AI beta experiments? They told us yesterday at the Google event, in the past 2 months, 1.1 billion people turned that on. Talk about scale of AI, like just in a few months.
Wow. Could you say that again louder?
Yes.
No worries.
So the question is that by AI depowering? Okay. So the question is
So
it
you
depowering?
mean are they pulling back on the reins, like how much they let it go and try to process? Oh yeah. Well, it's kind of like if you had a rocket ship and you know how fast it can go, but you have no navigation, so you worry its projection could be way off. So they try to do it incrementally, make decisions, recalibrate, just the same way we do with physical satellites, changing it by inches just so that it can stay on track. So it's not trying to stop it; it's more so trying to make sure it doesn't go completely off the rail.
But it just shows you how fast adoption is, and you're really feeding into essentially. We're always saying Google, right? That's all like a mission statement of crypto companies. But literally, a billion people chose Google to be centralized. Just think about that. And and also another opportunity, maybe it's like the other side of the coin here, is they have a model world. You can upload your model. They have an app builder world. So think about like how do you make AI and Web3 your app scale so fast? If you can plug into their system and using their AI tools, then you can think about, wow, this is an opportunity to get to 100 million people, but a billion people. You know, like that's how it's fast. So that's interesting too. So, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't have an answer to it, but that's just I'm observing. You can use the tools to get scale, but then also you're choosing centralized system pretty quick. Yeah.
I don't think that people care about decentralization as much as they say they do. I always get,
Yeah.
beat up for that statement, but I just don't. I think people care about ownership and having like ownership rights or ownership access. Ownership rights and ownership access. Do the fan. Perfect. Sorry, running low on battery over here. So I think it has to do more with like the ownership side of things. Like no one here woke up this morning and felt like their life was so centralized that they had to find a decentralized solution today. None of you did. And anybody that says that, you're a liar. And so what I would say is I think, while it might feel good and nice to say that we're going to get rid of incumbents and we're going to replace incumbents with decentralization, we're so far away from that ever happening. I don't think it'll ever happen personally, but I do think that you can still live a great decentralized life amongst yourself, and I think that's fine. I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. To me, that's really like the only decentralized blockchain aspect out there, and I think anybody that is in that world will always have an advantage over those that don't and fully rely on the system. But that being said, is you can't play in the world. You can't play in the ecosystem of the financial system, the credit system, the media system. You can't do that in a decentralized capacity. And no existing incumbent is going to say, you know what, I'm going to forego my entire stronghold and what gives my shareholders value to democratize access, to things overall. I do think that there will be companies that start from zero, maybe with those intentions that at one point in some future could potentially place an incumbent. But to tie that all to AI, I think AI will always be incredibly centralized. I don't see a world where AI is like this big decentralized tool, or if there are decentralized aspects of AI, again, that's just an offshoot because you're going to have, people who have massive compute power, doing things with our data, i.e. Microsoft, i.e. Amazon, i.e. Google, i.e. Facebook, all the companies that have that are doing it currently. So good luck being a startup and competing with their compute power.
I want to add to what you were saying too on the little bit sacrilegious about decentralization. Blockchain is not about decentralization. Anybody that tells you that, they just don't understand it. Anybody that thinks that, we're going to learn something new tonight. Blockchain is about immutability. Because this is immutable, I can now hand this off. And that's how decentralization begins. So there is a precursor to decentralization, which is the technology itself claims with a high confidence rate that you cannot change this information. So that's what changed everything. It wasn't decentralization. So if you love blockchain, you love immutability, not decentralization.
You know what's interesting pattern on the model side, like decentralized? I've noticed Patreon and OnlyFans accounts where people make a model, AI model, and get support, or Coffee accounts where they're just hyper specific on like, I'd make the best anime model for Midjourney, right?
Yes.
And they're just getting support by just a hyper focused model. That could be for like real estate photos, it could be for anything, whatever your niche is. That's kind of interesting. And that's, if you look at Hugging Face, there's like 240 or 250,000 models uploaded. That's like quite centralized. There's a lot of people doing it.
Yeah. There's a I forgot what the name is, but there is an Instagram person that's tons and tons of followers, and it's AI. It's not real.
Yeah.
But it looks like a young person. It's like that. it does make the question if there are ethical concerns and questions in there as well. We're a little bit short on
Yeah.
time, so I wanted to just so you know that this is kind of a hot topic. So, we'll take just a couple of questions. Please ask your question in about 10, 20 seconds. We're not trying to pitch right now. We just want to keep our discussion flowing. So, yes. So the question is, what's the big ethical quandary if it's not this big scary AI monster? What's our ethical concerns?
Over reliance, trying to make it do everything, and then making a lot of like firing your whole staff, and then realizing it wasn't a great idea. So I think the concern is literally us using it too much right away, rather than taking the time to learn how to use it.
I think like a little bit. It's not quite hallucinations, but maybe like false predictions. I wouldn't necessarily call it like a hallucination, but if anybody's ever saw the movie Minority Report, I mean, I think like that's a pretty interesting reality. And like there's things like that that happen kind of already, but just from like more human involvement, right? Like, oh, like someone's a suspect for something, and maybe because there's some hypothetical profile that models believe to be more likely to whatever. And so, like, imagine when a computer system has that type of information and starts building off of that. I think that can be pretty scary, overall. So that's my doomsday. And then I guess my other doomsday is that where you have to interact with AI just to function in the world. And I think that's a very good possibility, but I think that's also incredibly scary. Where like that you can't opt out of it.
It's kind of that way with computers, though, too. A lot of folks initially. My father was a geological engineer and did not want to switch over to computers. He just didn't, and it became obsolete for him.
Maybe deep fakes, because they're going to be crazy good. I think also we're all getting smarter about it. When we see something that's like, that guy would never say that. I think we're all kind of getting more intelligent with it. When we get so good.
Yeah.
And even if you can say, yeah, this is not the real version, tokenize it, but the initial reaction can cause damage pretty quick if it spreads fast. Yeah, because Midjourney is amazing.
Yes. So the question is, how can hallucinations help with blockchain?
I don't know. So I don't know the answer to that. What just immediately popped in my head is like how bad like that information could be on the blockchain where like if hallucinations gets onto a blockchain, like like that would be really bad. But I mean, I think it'd probably be more from like a info in standpoint. So like help preventing, ideally the information that's on the blockchain or whatever said content would be validated ahead of time. So it would be quality data into the AI. But you still have that problem is that you can have garbage in information on the blockchain and garbage out, back into AI. I think it's just that's a content quality.
You hit it on the head.
But the AI itself, will of course improve over time, to help prevent, hallucinations. But I think that's just more learning.
So through that, hallucinations are caused because of pattern recognition that doesn't exist. Pattern recognition that doesn't exist can come from data that never would have occurred because it's bad data. Just someone recorded something wrong, something was bumped in essence. So the way we can solve, I wouldn't say anything can solve anything 100%, but to increase confidence rate, it is about sourcing the data and verifying that the integrity of that list has not been tampered with. And of all technology I know right now, blockchain is the only one that solves that specific issue, meaning that it is the solution for AI to make better decisions and have less hallucination.
Okay, we'll take one last question. I know. Yeah. how do standards like CP2A affect standards in blockchain?
So when you're talking about things like GDPR, PII, those things in terms of data provenance, is that what you're mentioning? Yeah. Okay. So in regard to
So I'm not familiar with that, but it sounds very similar to like how, like tokenization is what it sounds like to me.
So I guess backing up, what is the question then? Well, what it sounds like is two different systems. One that would allow an individual to utilize that versus choosing. Options are important as we develop things, right? We don't want to have one framework we can build with. For instance, I always laugh when people say the blockchain, because that's not. Do we say the software? Because when people say the blockchain is going to fail, it's like, okay, then I guess the software is shutting down. So the reality is when we have new compliance requirements, it's about using frameworks that are able to be modular and dynamic without forking resources. So blockchains in themselves have this issue. These homogeneous blockchains have an issue with forking. Every time you fork, that's a divisionary mathematical sequence. If you want to build and compound, you need a multiplicative mathematical sequence. So building in, creating more assets. So blockchain needs to be applied properly, like anything else. A band-aid can be applied properly and it still works. So I don't see them like what you mentioned. I don't know much about what you were talking about, but I do understand that option is important, especially when you're a business and deciding we want this data private, we want this public. For instance, what we do is we create a hash of every single thing, and that's what's placed on chain. But that hash doesn't, you can't decrypt it and find out what the data is. It only verifies that that data was validated by a proper attestation when and where it's currently located. And then from that, the person can say, let's say AI, can I have access to that data? And then the individual on the other end of that can say, sure, I'll give you access. So different frameworks.
That's good. Right. Yeah.
My name's Linda Taylor now.
Just 1 second. I know a lot of people have to go because we're down here in Seattle and a lot of people are trying to beat the traffic. And I want to get your questions, but let's wrap up really quick and then we'll circle back for our after hour bonus questions. I wanted everyone to be able to say before everyone leaves where we can find you.
So companysoftware.com, not a breakdown site, it's actual app, which is a cool domain, right? And on Twitter, I'm Jesse's Happy Hour. I'm always hungry from 4 to 6, 10 to 12. And so that's my Twitter, and also uprock.com on Twitter is where you can find the company. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna look you up now.
Thanks.
So you can find me at freshcredit.com or freshcredit.org is our federal nonprofit, and you'll find the links.
You can learn more about what we're doing at nifmint.com, and then also on the content side at tflabs.io. And then I'm either JG Product or JG Blanco on all the socials.
And I'm NFTEA, like spill the T, VIP, because I would love to talk about NFTs and blockchain that way on every social and platform.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. Want to encourage you to take lots of pictures, take pictures now, take pictures of each other, hashtag Seattle Tech Week, and tag TF Labs and NIFMIT, and we'll make sure that gets out. And then remember that on August 16th, we're doing our AI Summit. I hope you can make it. We only have a handful of tickets left, so.
Thank you.
Will you take a picture of us?